An after-action report on July's mass shooting. We have team coverage on major city agencies who say they failed to protect you. First, a mother of one of the victims killed sounds off on the lack of police presence.
Why didn't you show up to protect these people?
Then we press public safety leaders on their commitment to improve communication with BPD.
How much longer will the community wait for these changes to be made?
And city council members make their voices heard in the wake of today's report.
All agencies need to be accountable.
Creating a brighter future for Maryland students.
Tutoring at no cost, you can't pass anything like that up.
A look at Sylvan Learning's free tutoring program inspired by FOX45 News Project Baltimore. Enforcement of low-level crimes in Baltimore off to a slow start. Why the city's top prosecutor says many citations written are invalid.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is FOX45 News at 10.
Nearly 2 months after the Brooklyn Day mass shooting, city officials releasing detailed reports surrounding their actions leading up to, during, and after the worst mass shooting in Baltimore's history. Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. Those reports, nearly 200 pages long, outline when officials first knew about the potential threat, when they responded to the shooting, and why they didn't take action sooner.
And the mother of Idalia Gonzalez, one of the 2 people killed in the shooting, reacting to those reports.
Why didn't you show up? Why didn't you show up to protect these people? I don't get it.
Tonight, Fox 45 News is looking into the after-action report from 3 city organizations: the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, the Housing Authority of Baltimore City, and the Baltimore Police Department.
The report shows some officers knew about the Brooklyn Day block party 3 days before it happened, but didn't do anything about it. Only one officer was stationed in Brooklyn at the time of the shooting. Several other officers were in the area and could have been called, but weren't requested. The report cites communication and decision-making failures from the Southern District Command. As a result, many people were served with charging papers, and the district major has been reassigned. When it comes to the investigation, no one has been arrested for the murder of 2 people during the shooting. The reward now $88,000. Police also released body camera footage from the shooting. The report raised concerns over a lack of body-worn camera footage, saying it's a potential policy violation.
We know we made mistakes. It was important that our after-action report not only mentioned those mistakes, highlighted those mistakes and the shortcomings, but also provides recommendations to improve and learn from.
The only way that we can begin to heal the trauma is to begin by focusing on accountability.
Well, in the 59 days since the shooting, city leaders have only spent about an hour and 45 minutes across 3 news conferences addressing it for the public. In that time, reporters have had about an hour to ask questions. At those 3 news conferences, reporters from all local and some national outlets only had the chance to ask 55 questions total. Fox 45's team of reporters pushing for more transparency at every level.
Our team coverage begins with Keith Daniels and more frustration from Idalia Gonzalez's mother and other residents still looking for answers. Keith.
Well, Kai and Mary, that mother, like so many others, have been waiting for police to release that report. And tonight, for her, so many questions remain. Across Baltimore City, reaction to the Baltimore Police Department's after-action report on the Brooklyn Homes deadly mass shooting. One key finding: some officers appeared to give little thought to potential public safety concerns leading up to the moment gunfire erupted.
It's incredibly disappointing to hear that. There's no other reaction that you can have.
All them people, more than 100 people was there, and no type of police activity was called at all.
I think the police pretty much dropped the ball for that community.
That says a lot about our police force. That's what I think, respectfully.
But no one has taken this report more seriously than Crystal Gonzalez.
I want to know why no one responded to shut down this party.
Gonzalez is the mother of 18-year-old Idalia Gonzalez, one of the 2 victims shot and killed in the mass shooting last month. Tonight, she printed her own copy of the action report.
It was apparent that BPD could have been better prepared for this event.
A key finding for her: police knew about the event days before it happened, but at one point said they did not.
The night my daughter was shot, That's the same thing they said. The very first thing they said is we didn't know about it until earlier today. And I said to my husband, then they're lying.
But in the end tonight, for this mother, the report only reignites the hurt of her painful loss. Her daughter, gone.
I nurtured her entire life. And I raised her great. I feel like we did a great job. I told my husband that before the shooting. I looked back after she graduated. I said, we did a good job, babe. I don't get to see her married. I don't get to see her starting a family. I don't get to see any of that. It's so hard for me to understand that at 18, that's it, no more. That's all you get.
Well, Ms. Gonzalez has not said what's next for her, but she did tell me, despite the pain that she might be feeling, it won't stop her from holding those responsible who, quote, dropped the ball that led to her daughter's death. Well, live tonight, Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
When that mother addressed the mayor and acting police commissioner last night, she brought up the calls for backup heard over the police scanner. Take a listen.
All I know is that I listened to the transcripts, I read them, and I heard police officers said this is a job for the National Guard. No one responded.
Yep.
I had people from that community almost begging the police to come there. No one responded.
Now, those comments are in response to 911 dispatch audio from the night of the shooting, saying the situation might have needed a National Guard presence.
And I have an armed person call at 819 Gretna Court. Hundreds of males and females are armed with guns and knives at the location.
We might have to redirect that call to the National Guard then.
While BPD admits failures, we haven't seen the same level of accountability from the mayor's office of neighborhood safety and engagement. Monzi confirmed Safe Streets employees mediated 5 incidents believed to involve guns on the night of the shooting, but stopped short of addressing where those incidents took place or how they related to the shooting. Peace spokesperson Euripsy Morgan says the lack of transparency is unacceptable.
Basic questions that were asked were unanswered. And let's remember, this is a taxpayer-funded organization. Everybody deserves the answers, and it's for no other reason than to make sure that this kind of thing never happens again and to hold people accountable when it does.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost pushed the interim Monzi director for more information today. She continues our team coverage.
There's little accountability coming from the mayor's office of neighborhood safety and engagement. And what this after action report indicates is just how many questions remain unanswered about how the Safe Streets program operates and what's expected from the violence interrupters.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today.
Taking a deep dive into the more than 170-page after action report, you'll find the mayor's office of neighborhood safety and engagement's response. Plenty of praise for the 45-day coordinated neighborhood stabilization response and a laundry list of nonprofit providers offering services after shots were fired. The pages confirming what we've been reporting. Safe Streets knew of tentative plans for Brooklyn Day at least 1 month before the event, and by the end of June, learned the block party was happening on July 1st. That intel never communicated to anyone inside City Hall or Baltimore police. The Safe Streets workers don't have policies in place to notify anyone of a potential threat. Monzi says the 5 conflicts mediated by Safe Streets workers prior to the shooting, which some did involve weapons, were not out of the norm of their daily course of duty. Where did those mediations take place, and is there any indication that the people involved in those mediations were either victims or suspects in the shooting?
I can't say whether these incidents involved victims or suspects in the incident, but what I can say is that from thorough conversations with our staff, these incidents were considered mediated, and so there was not an indication that this was a scene that was about to boil over.
We followed up with Monzi asking several questions, including if Monzi knew the details of the conflicts and couldn't share them or it wasn't known. Monzi telling Fox 45 News it is unaware of the mediations having involved suspects and or victims of Brooklyn Day. Changes to reporting policies for Safe Streets workers are in the works, like when an event has more than 50 people in a Safe Streets zone, if there are known groups who have had previous issues at the event, or if there is a suspicion of people with multiple weapons in one place, like at the Brooklyn Day event, when no information was reported by Safe Streets workers to anyone in management.
We want to make sure that we're able, moving forward, to have very strong intelligence between Safe Streets and the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement so that we have the proper situational awareness.
But when remains the question. In July, Monzi's staff told Fox 45 News it was assessing the internal escalation protocols to inform Monzi when incidents emerge that may be outside their scope of work or require additional resources.
That was last month. We're still here talking about the idea of possibly implementing that. How much longer will the community wait for these changes to be made?
We're making changes immediately. The recommendations include a proposed policy, and so we're in the process right now of finalizing that.
But do you have a timeline for when those changes will actually be implemented?
As I mentioned, we have proposed language right now, and so we're looking to finalize that in the coming weeks.
Mavronis says conversations are happening now with Safe Streets sites before any new policy is implemented. But nearly 2 months after the shooting, little change implemented, and leaders of the city's flagship community violence intervention program praised their response to what's being called one of the most painful chapters in Baltimore's history.
We also asked Monzi if the public will see the documentation Safe Streets workers used to track the mediations before the shooting took place. So far, Monzi has yet to respond. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
The Baltimore City Council has also been critical of Monzi's lack of transparency, unsatisfied with Monzi leadership during last month's hearing. Councilman Antonio Glover suggested the organization's funding should be paused or cut until more is learned about the Safe Streets program.
Should Monzi be getting the level of funding that it is?
Right now, I think that until we start to see transparency in data, I think that money should be held to a halt.
Fox 45's Jeff Abel is following up with City Council members in the wake of today's report. He joins us live with their thoughts on these findings. Jeff?
Well, while some council members are calling this report both shocking and disturbing, there is growing debate tonight about who should actually be held accountable.
I don't put this on the police.
Minutes after City Hall released the report, talk radio was lighting up.
King Classic Live starts now.
So they're going to use the BPD as a scapegoat once again.
If I was a police officer, I'd be afraid to go in there.
There are some shocking parts of that report.
At City Hall, those who oversee public safety in the city found the 173-page after-action report difficult to digest, as it detailed the city's failed response to the largest mass shooting in this city's history.
I think the lack of seriousness, was a little bit shocking in reading parts of the report that we saw from the police department.
It's a deeply disturbing report that demonstrates a level of indifference and, in some cases, contempt that officers showed toward those that they serve.
City Councilman Zeke Cohen says the report illustrates the deep divide that still exists between law enforcement and the community, and the city's failure to maintain public safety, he says, cannot be excused.
We do need to hold the department accountable to be present and show up at events, and it is not okay and it is not good enough to say, well, we're understaffed.
That's just not the proper way to address the issue, and I would expect that officers, and the department has a method for dealing with these issues going forward.
While council members demand accountability from law enforcement, critics complain those demands could be misplaced.
You're going to see a lot of officers are now going to look at this actual report and say, wow, you're putting this on me? The blame is now on me? From the guy that wants to reimagine public safety and defunded the police, now it's on me? We are for sure going to lose more officers.
Well, council members say they still have plenty of unanswered questions and have scheduled a second public hearing next month. We're live tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. The Housing Authority also faced criticism in the wake of today's report. We'll take a closer look at that coming up at 10:30.
We want you to join the conversation. Do you think the city is being fully transparent with the investigation into the Brooklyn Day mass shooting? So far, 92% of people who voted say no. You can weigh in at foxbaltimore.com/vote. And Fox 45 News will continue to push city leaders for accountability in the coming days. Our complete coverage of the Brooklyn Day mass shooting and its aftermath available online right now at foxbaltimore.com.
Still ahead on Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock tonight. It's been nearly 2 months since City State's Attorney Ivan Bates kicked off his citation docket. Why progress is slower than he'd like. Idalia is moving through southern states in America after it hit Florida as a Category 3 hurricane. We have a live report from one of the hardest hit areas.
Rain impacts on Thursday from Idalia down to our south, but rip current threats are going to be spreading northbound to our shorelines. I'm going to let you know if that's going to impact your Labor Day holiday forecast, and also the details on a blue supermoon happening tonight.
Coming up after the break, the latest test scores show Maryland students are still struggling in math. Project Baltimore looks at one program trying to help students improve and how it was inspired by our reporting.
The latest state test scores show Maryland students are still struggling in math. In Baltimore City, just over 9% of 3rd through 8th graders scored proficient in math last year.
But as Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, to help, 60 students in Baltimore recently completed a first-of-its-kind free summer learning program inspired by a Fox 45 News report.
You want Sprite?
Yeah.
Soda? Pizza?
Graduation cake?
Cake.
Are we allowed to get another piece?
Yeah. Memories.
Oh my God.
Yes, I'm so proud of you.
This is the first ever graduating class of Sylvan Learning's first ever free summer learning program.
So the first 2 people I'm going to honor here today had perfect attendance. First off, Caden Thompson.
These students, like Caden Thompson, attended the University of Maryland, Baltimore location.
All right, congratulations.
In total, 60 students at 3 city locations signed up for the program, which ran 90 minutes a day, 4 days a week, for 5 weeks. All of it focused on math, and all of it at no cost.
It's a great program. I mean, Sylvan's reputation goes back years and years here in the Baltimore area.
Brian Pinkney is Caden's great uncle.
Tutoring, at no cost. You can't pass anything like that up. It's a great opportunity for him to learn math.
An opportunity inspired by one mother's desperate plea for help.
In Baltimore City, you having a black child, a male child at that, is only 2 ways out. You're either going to be dead or locked up. And I don't want that for my son.
Nichelle Watkins' son was in 4th grade last year at Johnston Square Elementary and very far behind in his education. Johnston Square was one of 23 schools that a Project Baltimore investigation found had 0 students among those tested who scored proficient in math in 2022. When we first interviewed Watkins in February, she needed help.
Look around. I'm in public housing. I can't afford no $1,000 tutor from Sylvan, but that's what he needs. A tutor.
The enormity of the statistics you described could be something that is daunting or depressing, or you can build programs and begin to deliver in the community and invite families and help the kids.
Which is why Sylvan Learning and the University of Maryland did. The university provided the space. Sylvan provided the tutors. By the end of the program, each child received about $1,500 of tutoring for free. The goal is to prepare the students for the start of the school year.
6 times 3 is 6, 12, 18.
By limiting summer learning loss.
879 times 4. Yes.
And ensuring that love for learning.
So that's 0 right here.
Does not take 3 months off.
If we help 1, 10, 20, 30 of them over the course of the year be stronger and go further and succeed, it's a win.
Sylvan Learning told FOX45 the program's success has inspired them to expand to more Baltimore locations next summer. The idea may even be duplicated in other cities.
Hey, do we get it?
How'd he do? Oh, he loves the program, and he doesn't complain. So I know he's involved in learning and likes it.
If they offer this program again, would you sign up again?
Right now, we'd sign up. Yes, we would.
I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Great job. Now grab your cake.
We never had nothing like this. We got trees down everywhere. We got power lines down, roofs off buildings.
Many people in Florida picking up the pieces after Hurricane Idalia. We'll have a live report from one of the hardest hit areas after the break.
And some of the high clouds from Idalia is impacting a view of this, the blue supermoon tonight. Yes, if you go outside, take a look up, you're going to see it appears bigger and brighter. It's actually the 2nd August supermoon that we've had this month. In other words, with it being a blue moon, the 2nd full moon of the month, and the closest on its orbit around the Earth, it makes it the 2nd supermoon. And it's out there until early tomorrow morning through a thin veil of high clouds, and catch it next time it happens, 2037. We're going to have more on Idalia in a couple of minutes.
Just said to Kai, where will we be in 2037? Well, as we head to break, a live look over the Inner Harbor, a little cloudy, but otherwise it is nice out there. I do not see the moon, though, at all. Not yet.
Idalia is moving over the southern United States. Right now, it's a tropical storm, hours after making landfall in Florida as a Category 3 storm.
The storm is responsible for at least 2 deaths. It left widespread damage and flooding. Hundreds of thousands of people are now without power.
Tonight, many are left picking up the pieces.
That's right. Tanner Stewart with our Sinclair sister station joins us live from Tallahassee, less than 50 miles from one of the hardest hit areas. Tanner, what have you seen out there tonight?
Mary and Kai, good evening. First of all, many of those residents down in that Big Bend region have evacuated to nearby cities like here in Tallahassee. But a lot of them, like the ones we met today down in Perry, Florida, didn't leave. They told us several people say that they're shocked that they survived through the night after the conditions they witnessed, telling us it's the worst that they've ever experienced.
These are areas that are very heavily wooded. Just driving around Taylor County, I mean, you see these trees knocked over, and it is going to require a lot of resources.
Hurricane Idalia sweeping through Florida's Big Bend, destroying structures, cars, and knocking out power for hundreds of thousands of Floridians. In Taylor County, small town Perry, Florida, home to just 7,000 residents, all believed to be without power after Idalia hit. At last check, almost 6,700 customers there remain without power.
We never had nothing like this. You know, we got trees down everywhere. We got power lines down, roofs off buildings.
At first, the wind was coming out of the west and all the trees were bending. And I was just sitting there in awe, and then I heard the roar. Ooh. I hope there's no fatalities. I hadn't heard anything, but I hope there's no fatalities and nobody got hurt, and it's a blessing, you know, and I hope that everybody's okay. So I don't want to experience that again.
This hardware shop destroyed, the roof caved in, remnants of the roof scattered across the property. The barber shop next to it had its roof ripped off as well. Despite what could take months, if not years, to repair, residents in Perry are banding together to return to normalcy.
At the end of the day, how this look, it could have been way worse than what we expected, so.
There's an overwhelming feeling of optimism there in Perry. Those residents just working hour by hour to get things restored like their power. At last check, I mentioned just over 7,000 there in the population. 6,700 customers in Perry, Florida alone without power. We're hoping to get a better update by the morning time. Live in Tallahassee tonight, I'm Tanner Stewart.
Tanner, thank you. City State's Attorney Ivan Bates' new citation docket in place now for 2 months. Why he says he's not seeing the results he had hoped for and his plans for improvement.
A vote of no confidence held within the Baltimore County Fire Department. A closer look at the problems some say led to the vote and how the department plans to move forward.
We are following three big stories at 10:30. A vote of no confidence within Baltimore County's fire department. Fox 45 News speaks to the fire union president as a new report outlines potential issues.
Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates addresses the first summer of his citation docket, why he says some of the citations issued were unconstitutional.
And the after-action report from the Brooklyn Day mass shooting is out, highlighting failures from city leadership before and after the tragedy.
I can't be any more honest than to tell you we made mistakes and that we'll fix them. And those who made those mistakes will be held accountable.
We are setting a path forward with the goal of ensuring every mistake outlined in these reports is never repeated.
Mayor Brandon Scott, Acting Police Commissioner Richard Worley, and other city leaders addressed the findings today.
That's right. They all say the shooting that killed 2, injured 28 others was entirely preventable. At least one Baltimore police unit was aware of the event 3 days in advance, but high-ranking officials who could have provided extra support did not know about the party until 20 minutes before the shooting.
The report also highlighted officer indifference as a concern. Attorney Thuru Vignaraja addressed that part of the report on Fox 45 News at 5.
This report basically says officers were motivated by overtime, but even that wasn't enough to go into a crowd of people where violence was on the horizon, where Safe Street workers apparently knew that people with guns were getting into altercations, but the police couldn't be bothered to do anything more.
Monzi leaders say the organization is also reevaluating its protocol for when Safe Streets workers should communicate a potential public safety threat to City Hall, but have not said when those changes may go into effect.
The Housing Authority of Baltimore has also faced criticism for allowing the party to happen in the first place. Agency leaders saying they weren't aware Brooklyn Day was taking place despite this scene at Brooklyn Homes. The agency is now working to provide overnight security in Brooklyn Park and educating residents about emergency protocols like using a hotline to report potentially dangerous events.
The Housing Authority has admitted they're aware of a history of criminal activity in the area. The man who allegedly rented equipment for the block party had been charged with cocaine distribution in the neighborhood twice in the past 6 months. Fox 45 News has confirmed a U-Haul seen in the background during the police response to the shooting was the same one rented by the alleged drug dealer.
Well, 20-year-old Kailas Fagbemi and 18-year-old Aaliyah Gonzalez were killed that night. So far, police have only made one arrest related to the shooting, an 18-year-old facing more than 50 charges, including attempted murder. The reward for information is now up to $88,000.
For our extensive coverage on the Brooklyn Homes shooting, after the after-action report and all of our previous reporting, you can go to our website, foxbaltimore.com.
It has been nearly 2 months since Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates unveiled his citation docket meant to go after low-level crimes. But so far, the numbers aren't living up to Bates's expectations. Fox 45's Vincent Hill joins us live with a look at the data as Bates identifies some issues within the current system and how he'd like to fix them. Vincent?
Yeah, well, it all comes down to a lack of understanding and a lack of training, according to the city's top prosecutor and the city's top cop.
City State's Attorney Ivan Bates still working to correct what his predecessor, Marilyn Mosby, left behind.
Baltimore City for the past 4 years was the only jurisdiction in the state that was not enforcing the law.
But speaking at a public safety hearing, Bates says his criminal citation docket is still getting pushback.
The public defender's office refused to participate in the citation docket process.
And the numbers show it's off to a slow start, according to Assistant State's Attorney Patricia DeRose.
In July, there were 62 defendants on the 3 citation dockets. There were, out of those, 90 citations had been issued. Virtually all of those are business license cases.
In July, over 6 dozen businesses were cited for license violations. During the same time period, over 50 criminal citations were issued by BPD, but not all made it to court.
As of the 2 dockets that I have had, I believe that only 3 citations we have been able to move forward as legally sufficient as issued by the Baltimore City Police Department.
Those charges essentially dropped.
A number of them weren't constitutionally feasible for us to provide.
Bates says those charges were written wrong and not prosecutable.
We have to go back and give these officers who are young and never done this before what we call a cheat sheet.
Acting Commissioner Richard Worley.
Basically, we're wasting our time and we're wasting the citizens' time.
Acknowledging work needs to be done on his end.
This is a training issue that our officers obviously aren't doing correctly. The card will help a great deal, but it comes back to supervision. The supervisor has to look at that. The officer has to write it correctly.
Meanwhile, Bates, realizing his plan to bring quality of life back to Baltimore, will take time.
We're going to make those mistakes at the beginning so it can work better. That's why I've always said a year, a year, a year.
And of those citations deemed unconstitutional, the defendants still showed up to court because they didn't know those charges were essentially dropped. For now, we're live at City Hall. Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Vincent, thank you. There's frustration in Howard County. Bus delays and cancellations are leaving some students stranded during the first week of class. Parents tell Fox 45 News 20 bus routes were suddenly canceled late Monday night, and they didn't find out about it until 11 p.m.
It's very unacceptable. We got the email saying that the route was canceled.
Finding out that the bus drivers did not practice the route, that is not a good representation of what we're dealing with.
The school system says a new out-of-state bus company doesn't have enough drivers to cover all routes. The superintendent says this isn't a new issue in the county.
The last several years, having 95 to 105 vacancies every year is not acceptable either. So we wanted to implement a different delivery with a different contract that had access to a national body of individuals who could come in and support us as bus drivers.
The superintendent apologized for the issue, saying new drivers are being trained to restore the suspended routes, and there will be a thorough audit of the transportation office.
Well, Baltimore County parents also reporting issues with bus pickups. Two parents sent us photos to Fox 45 News this week showing their children sitting on the floor of a crowded school bus. You can see about 8 students crammed along the back of the bus. Parents are outraged at the photo, saying it's dangerous. The school system says the overcrowding is unacceptable, and they promise to send a bigger bus in the future. If your family experiences any issue with school bus system, we would like to hear about it. Send any information and relevant photos or videos to the email address right there on your screen, news@foxbaltimore.com.
A vote of no confidence was held today within the Baltimore County Fire Department. It comes as the fire union is releasing a report on widespread issues within the department, including poor morale and safety concerns, according to them. Rebecca Pryor hears from the fire union president in a story you're seeing first on Fox.
Sounding the alarm on a fire department allegedly plagued with problems.
It's been brewing probably for a while.
Baltimore County's fire union issuing this 16-page report detailing widespread issues and concerns within the department following a rare vote of no confidence. Chief Joanne Rund barely surviving the vote, while union members overwhelmingly delivering a vote of no confidence against Assistant Chief Jennifer Utz and Deputy Chief Francis DePaula.
Are you calling for their resignation by this vote?
So our vote and the intentions, I believe, of the membership is not for anybody to lose their job or their position.
According to union president John Sabiga, there's room for changes to be made before a change in leadership is necessary. But he says improvements need to be made immediately.
The morale's pretty low right now. There's a lot of issues that are going on.
Among the most egregious allegations leading to what the union is calling a toxic environment, a lack of respect, trust, and consistency between chief officers and members. Chief officers caught lying in discipline hearings and falsifying documents, as well as unsafe tactical decisions made by chief officers that have led to increased property damage and near misses to personnel.
It seems to be heavy-handed, very significant penalties or discipline imposed.
It's more than just heavy-handed. Members are calling it bullying and harassment.
They do. It just seems like it's an incredible amount of scrutiny that happens.
Current recruitment practices, another major issue coming under fire. The report claiming applicants who are not physically fit have been assisted and selected to make up numbers for diversity in a job where physical fitness could cost lives.
Our physical ability test is probably minimal at best and lacking in a lot of ways.
The thoroughness of background checks also being called into question with accusations that a convicted felon spent time on the force.
I'm not really sure how that slipped through the cracks, but that is accurate.
Additionally, the report says a lack of training for EMS and fire staff could be putting those fighting the flames and the public safety at risk.
It's concerning in that because the public may not always be in the best care that we could if we were doing additional training.
In response to the report, County Executive Johnny Olszewski seemingly throwing his support behind the current chief, sending a statement to Fox 45 reading in part, quote, Chief Runn continues to lead critical efforts to strengthen and modernize the Baltimore County Fire Department. Olszewski going on to say he's taking the concerns seriously and will assist in exploring opportunities for improvement.
I hope they just don't discount the vote of no confidence and just say, well, it doesn't mean anything. That would only lead to bigger problems.
Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Fox 45 News reached out